There are some lies in our science books. Taught it for 15 years. Even though I'm not teaching it anymore, I still like to study. It's so many neat things to learn. We're going to cover some of that tonight.
Perception is being managed. We are being steered and guided by a hidden hand.
The whole world has been duped by the media that is not real.
Smart thinking, possible time traveler, smart thinking.
That night, boom, contact memory.
And then, Alex, if you don't agree, you'll be sent to a re-education camp.
Just because I'm old doesn't mean I've lost my touch with the ladies.
A lot of people here tonight felt like they lost. You know why?
Now, experts are suggesting that we're in a golden age of shape-shifting reptilian sightings. Now, why is that?
I was, and still am, a huge conspiracy guy. I literally ran out of new tin hat topics to research.
It was most definitely not capable of melting steel.
Then I would be a crackpot if I thought that was the case.
Welcome to the Hypothetical Institute, a podcast about conspiracies.
My name is Luke.
I'm Salty.
I'm Cam. How are we, gentlemen? Hopefully not too shaken, just a little bit stirred.
I'm always stirred, not shaken at all.
So this week we're talking about earthquakes, and that is because we have just been through one. Are you guys okay?
Yeah, I think I'm okay.
What was your earthquake experience, Robbo?
Mine was pretty. I'm from a pretty earthquakey part of the world. In my normal life, normal life.
Okay, the truth comes out.
Well, right now it doesn't feel like normal life. Right now we've been inside for 18 months.
Yeah.
This feels like a bizarre alien world. That kind of an earthquake is, a couple of times a year is probably about what I'm used to.
Yeah.
So I handled it,
Yeah, you're like these babies don't know earthquakes.
Yeah. So when I realized, I went and stood in the doorway and yelled at Emma to go stand in a doorway. She didn't. Took her a while to get to the doorway, but it was good practice.
For me, I was sitting down and things started shaking, and it was one of those things where it's like, is that a truck going past? And then it's like, well, I've had enough time to really process that thought. Too long, in fact, for it to be a truck. So,
is that a road train going past?
It might be an old school country road train. I'm falling into a country song. And then I was like, no, I think that's an earthquake. And then my house, I would say, is just about ready to fall down. So I considered getting into a doorway, and then I was just like, let the chips fall where they may. Salty, though, I'm curious as to how your earthquake experience was, because you're up in a huge, tall apartment building.
Yeah, it was, I'm not ashamed to say, the scariest thing I think I've ever experienced in my life.
Really?
Yep. My nerves still are a little bit shot from it.
What about the time you went to the old psychiatric hospital to look for ghosts when you were on a roller derby trip, a roller hockey trip?
No, that was nothing. That was a bit spooky because it was dark.
Yeah.
Like proper country dark.
Yeah.
Obviously not Gippsland dark, but country South Australia dark is pretty dark.
Still pretty dark.
Yeah. That was fucked.
Why? What was the like?
Well, I don't know. I was streaming at the time. I was live.
Can we go watch you be terrified of the earthquake on a VOD?
Yeah, I can't. I have trouble watching it.
Really?
Yeah. Just because of the look on my face. Like when I look at my face, when I realize something weird's happening and like what's happening, it makes me feel really uneasy. Like it's not nice.
Have you experienced earthquakes before?
No. Well, like very, very, very can I feel the soles of my feet vibrating like tremors in South Australia? Like years ago. but nothing like that.
Well, because it was a 6. I think
Yeah.
it
was
shook
pretty
out,
big.
It shook out to be in the end.
It was also a long one as well.
So I was sitting on my computer and I was playing Sea of Thieves and I was streaming and I started, the first thing I thought also was about a truck. Because I could hear like a rumbling outside of my headphones. I started feeling the building shaking. And so we were on the 10th floor of this building and the whole building was rocking, like it was moving so much. I've never felt anything like it. We every now and again feel like little bits of rumbling in the building that's like, I don't know, fucking generators on the roof going on and off and the coals bins being emptied when they get slammed down on the road. You can kind of feel it through the building. But this was like I was on a boat, like that was rocking on the waves. Like the whole building was moving back and forth.
Like you're in Sea of Thieves.
And up and down. The floor was like, when I got up, because I got out of my chair because Kylie was still asleep. So I stood up and walked towards the bedroom just as she came out of the bedroom. And it was like I had sea legs, like trying to walk on the floor of the building while it was shaking and moving was like moving, like you know the sensation I'm talking about, right? Where you kind of move back and forth, you don't really know where to stand. It was like that, and it seemed to go on.
It was a really long earthquake.
Yeah, and Kylie was kind of it woke her up. She was really confused, so she was kind of freaking out, and I was just kind of telling her just get dressed. So she was doing that. I was kind of trying to figure out what was going on. I was grabbing my keys and I didn't know what to do. And at the moment that it was happening, I didn't know what it was. So I had,
because really, there's a lot of reasons why that building you're in might fall over.
Well, see, this is the thing, right? In the last couple of months, there's been stories of like apartment buildings in Miami just fucking falling to the ground.
Yeah.
A friend of mine who lives in an apartment in Miami, her apartment is almost falling to the ground. And the first thought that goes through my head is the building's about to fall down because it was moving that much and it was making that much noise that so many really, really dark thoughts went through my head. Like it was horrible. Like I can't even laugh about it. Like it was a really unpleasant experience. And I was standing there trying to help Kylie get her shit together. And in my mind, I'm just thinking, how is the building going to fall down? Like, is it going to fall straight down? Is it going to fall to the side? Am I going to get crushed with the roof? Am I going to get thrown out the balcony window and then hit the ground? Jesus. Am I going to... It was horrible. Like I'm not even going to pretend that it wasn't the worst thing I've ever experienced. And for days, my nerves were shot. And I'm glad you guys can laugh about it.
Well, could I just say for the listeners, the way that I introduced this topic by having Robbo, who I knew would say it was no big deal, talk first, and then proceed was no accident.
Okay.
I wanted to make Robbo look like a massive dick.
Well, I mean, we've got
and I succeeded.
Now we're about to set up for 30 minutes of jokes about earthquakes. So, like, now, well, do we not record this podcast because Salty's like, I don't want
plan.
No, it's an awful. Like, Salty, do you not want to?
He's already traumatized. A little more trauma won't hurt him.
It's fine. Like, it was really not nice, and I really don't like thinking about it. Like, I don't like thinking about when it actually happened. But, you know, like I don't mind talking about it. Like, the topic's fine because I know there's going to be like fun shit about fucking particle weapons and shit. Which I'm sure it was, because I'm pretty sure I felt something playing with my dick just before the building started shaking. So, look, the topic's fine, but yeah, the actual experience, I still find it very, very difficult to think about.
Okay, wow. Sorry that that's become a a source of anxiety for you as well because you're still in the building.
So,
any funny jokes about earthquakes?
Now, the funny side of earthquakes.
You know what the dumb thing is though? Like, the one thing that I can like talk about, which I'm like so stupid, is like the building had barely stopped rumbling and shaking, and we were out in the corridor, and there was other people out in the corridor just going, "The fuck was that?" And we were all just kind of going, "Oh, what the hell?" We were all just kind of freaking out. So our first instinct was, well, let's go out onto the street, which is now I've learned that's not what you do.
No.
And how did we get down to the street? We took the elevator. Just straight into the lift.
It is.
Let's go.
Yeah, people. If you're not familiar with an earthquake, or any kind of disaster, like when it happens, you just completely do all the wrong things.
Yeah,
because you don't know, and your brain's you're not ready for it. So you're like, well, I need to get out to the street. How do I do that? Multiple times a day, probably, in the elevator.
And so the other thing that was weird about it was we went downstairs, and I went to the little cafe downstairs. Like I just went to the window, and I said, "Did you feel that?" And the guy in the cafe was like, "Huh?" And I was like, "The whole building just fucking shook for like forever." And he goes, "Oh, I did notice our lights were moving a little bit just then." And then meanwhile, there's like half the building piled out on the street, and I'm like, and so that made me unsure of what it was too, because I'm like, well, he didn't feel anything. Was it? Can we never go back to our apartment now because they're going to go in and half the building's cracked and it wasn't until we had been standing out on the street for a few minutes that people started saying, "Oh, look, getting their phones out and going, oh yeah, look, there was an earthquake. They felt it, over here and there," and that's when we got the news.
So this leads me to the first theory, if you guys don't mind me jumping in immediately.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a few videos. This one, I don't know who the original was. I didn't write it down, but it keeps on being spliced into other videos as well. It's an Australian guy who says, I can tell you 100% categorical that it was not an earthquake. It was HAARP. It was shaking everywhere, but there was no movement on the ground.
Right.
And he said he's talked to a bunch of other people, and they all said they saw shaking up. And if you're in a building, it shook, but anyone on the ground didn't feel it. And that's because...
sort of how earthquakes often go.
Well, no. Yes and no. Because, as the buildings are built to sway a lot more in an earthquake, and that's probably why Salty's, experienced a lot worse than us on the ground, because it sways to, so it doesn't collapse.
Yeah.
But also, I felt it. You feel on the ground. The ground is shaking. But no, he's convinced it's HAARP, and he said it's all going to come out soon.
Yeah, I feel like part of it is probably because we have so few earthquakes that people don't know what an earthquake actually feels like. But if you're driving, you won't ever feel them.
No, not typically.
And also if you were walking on the actual earth, letting the nutrients soak up into your feet, would you feel it as much? Because it's just the ground shaking. It's not like there's not other stuff moving around.
Yeah, you'd notice it for sure.
Okay. Well, I don't know. This is the thing. I don't know.
Yeah, easily. But yeah, buildings are designed to move more than, a one-story building, for example.
But yeah, that HAARP thing has definitely gone off with the Australian conspiracy theorists. Lizzie Rose, the psychic fake Bunnings Karen.
Oh, yeah.
What do you mean fake Bunnings Karen? Are there two Bunnings Karens?
There were two Bunnings Karens. I should know because I've brought both Bunnings Karens to the world. You're welcome, Bunnings.
Oh, that's right. You did, but yeah.
So the first Bunnings Karen was she worked at she had worked at some insurance company, and she was the one that actually went viral first. And it was she's the one that was I'm a living human woman. This is against the Geneva Convention, telling the poor person at Bunnings who asked her to put a mask on.
Yeah.
And then she was eventually arrested outside. And so that was the real Bunnings Karen. And then the next day, this woman, Lizzie Rose, went to Bunnings and filmed a small video. And I put that up as well. I was like, what is it with these people in Bunnings? But then she sort of managed to capitalize on that and become the Bunnings Karen in like the media understanding, even though she was the fake. And I think that she had sort of even gone to Bunnings, having seen the Bunnings Karen stuff, and been like,
Bunnings is the place to be seen.
Yeah, but Bunnings is the place to do this sort of thing. This is, the battlefield of ideas. It's happening in the paint aisle. So anyway, fake Bunnings Karen, Lizzie Rose. So the other thing about her is that she's like a psychic and exorcist. And she'd done a bunch of stuff on, I think it's specifically Channel 9. She'd been on like a current affair over the years as like, like celebrity psychic, celebrity exorcist. And then the reason I was sort of hesitant to like post too much stuff about her, because I was like, well, she's got all this media training, so she's going to be like quite savvy. And so if I like make Bunnings Karen 2.0 a thing, then she'll be able to like pivot into like a little media career based on it, and she'll be able to push all this weird anti-vax stuff like on a bigger platform. So I was very cognizant of the fact that I didn't want to give her too much oxygen.
Yeah.
And then she went on like the morning show on Channel 9 is, like Today or whatever it is, with Karl Stefanovic.
Yep.
And instantly like started talking about Freemason pedophiles, and they just cut her off. And that was like the end of any attempt she had at capitalizing on it as a media career. And so she was completely marginalized into the weird like Freemason pedophile space.
I don't think the media is fully comprehensive of how cooked a lot of the stuff is.
Yeah.
A lot of the protests we're seeing, which we'll talk a lot about on the news show, but yeah, like people are really, really cooked.
Yeah, they think they're going to get some whimsical conspiracy theory, like, the world's flat, really, blah blah blah. But then when they start going into the kids in the tunnels.
Yeah, and they all think that now. That's everyone's thing. Everyone needs to be executed, and we need to save the kids in the tunnels.
So the thing with Lizzie Rose is, she's definitely big on all the tunnel stuff, but she said she's going to go up to Mansfield, which is where the epicenter of the earthquake was, to find the HAARP weapons that set it off.
Right.
And so she's making a movie about it.
Yeah, right. They don't put the weapons in. The weapon shoots from somewhere else.
Yeah, it would sort of be crazy to have it there.
Yeah, it would be a space platform, surely. Surely that's what Bezos put up in space when he went up there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's exactly what Bezos put up in space when he went up there.
Yeah. And then next month when he goes back with fucking William Shatner, they're just going to go check on it, I guess.
Is he going back with William Shatner?
Yeah, Kirk's going to space.
There you go. Again.
Well, yeah, again.
For people that don't know, HAARP, because it comes up a bit, but I think we talked about it once on a full episode, didn't we?
Yeah, we did a full episode on HAARP.
But High Frequency Active Oral Research Program. It doesn't happen anymore, does it? Oh, no, that's right. They gave the ownership of the facility to a university, the Alaska University. Yeah. They build like big antenna arrays to like work out what's going on around things.
Yeah, but they definitely occupy space in the conspiratorial imagination as like the weather manipulators.
I mean, I remember looking at their antenna arrays, and yeah, it doesn't look like a fun thing. It looks like if you were going to build something that was going to, create earthquakes. Yeah, that's might be it.
Well, I guess my question would be, why are we going to the weather manipulators for an earthquake? Like, that's not weather.
There's a guy on Reddit for years, it was a couple of years ago now. He was predicting earthquakes using solar winds and sunbursts and stuff, and like had long posts where he detailed everything and said there's going to be an earthquake soon. And then, because there's earthquakes all the time, like, if you're paying attention to ABC News, you'll see an earthquake on the news ticker once a month. It might not get talked about, in the lead of the news, but it will pop up as be like, earthquake in Malaysia, 40 people died. No one, no one in Australia really cares, but we have to put it in the news. So every time an earthquake come up, that was somewhat significant, he'd be like, "Told ya, earthquake, just proved it."
Well, but I mean, even in terms of ones where people aren't dying or that don't make the news or don't even make the news ticker, like they're just constantly happening, aren't they? Because of the reality of tectonic plates.
Yeah, like they're happening all the time, even in in and around Melbourne, where we don't think we have earthquakes. Like it's pretty constant. This person was quite a Reddit celebrity on the conspiracy subreddit for a long time. Then people started calling him out as a fraud, and then I think people were pretending to be him, and it just kind of drifted off. But he's one of a few earthquake prediction people out there, and they're all just absolutely full of shit. Just well, I mean, I guess they're not full of shit because they are saying an earthquake's going to happen, and an earthquake happened. So yeah, sure. They've said that and it happened. It doesn't prove that they've predicted it, though. Like I could just say, look, there's going to be a big earthquake in January next year in the southern hemisphere, and there probably will be.
I found another guy like that on Twitter when I was looking into this stuff who had like some ideas about tectonic plates are slowing down and like blocking up quicker. And so he has all of these like sort of cooked charts and maps and things with a lot of MS Paint drawings.
Right.
That's pretty good.
And it is one of those things though where it's like, well, I told you there was going to be an earthquake here, and eventually there was.
Yeah. So I guess the predominant theme has been the tunnels, right?
Yeah, the tunnels and the deep underground military bases, or DUMS.
Yes.
Which I think that when we talked about those in a bit more detail, it's like that had to be someone taking the piss.
Yeah. And so I guess it does come back into the QAnon world of tunnels. The good guys or the bad guys are smuggling the kids through the tunnels, and the earthquake was to cover up something. Is that where they're going with it?
Well, I think if the deep underground military base is being run by the bad guys, the good guys are out there and they've blown it up, and that's caused what we thought was an earthquake, but it was actually just them setting off a mini nuke under the ground. Now, I did see that so Puckapunyal is, I think, close to Mansfield, close-ish. Puckapunyal is an above ground military base.
Okay. An actual military base.
Yeah, the classic type. You might know it from the song "I Was Only 19."
Yeah.
But they were suggesting, what if beneath the actual above ground military base there was a deep underground military base? Like, wouldn't that be the perfect hiding spot? And so maybe that's what was getting blown up.
It is fact check. It's 124 kilometers away from Mansfield, so it's not super far.
No, but is it? I think too far away, perhaps, for the seismological indicators, right?
You wouldn't want to. So if you're blasting tunnels that are full of kids that are being smuggled, you wouldn't want to blast it in the main bit where all the kids are.
No,
you'd want to blast it a little bit away to seal it off. From seal off the exit for the bad guys.
Yep.
And then come in through Puckapunyal, the main entrance.
Thank you for giving this so much tactical thought.
Well, I'm just trying to get into the mindset of why people think blowing up a tunnel would be a solution to saving kids in the tunnel. That's not an effective way to save anyone in a tunnel.
So I also saw some stuff. So people were getting into the weeds of where the deep underground military bases in Victoria are. And I think these have to be people that aren't in Victoria or are not from the country, because some of the places they were mentioning are very far apart from Mansfield. So they were talking about Morwell and Sale, which both they're in Gippsland, sort of east of Melbourne. Sale by quite a distance. And I think I know that Morwell has a very small airport, and I think Sale might have a small airport as well. But the fact that these places have airports is very suspicious, and there's a lot of suspicious activity at these airports. And it's actually, I don't doubt that if there was some nutter in Morwell who cared to monitor planes flying in and out of the Morwell airport, I'm sure there is some dodgy stuff going on.
you guys remember?
I'm sure every regional, like very small regional airport, is primarily used for drug trafficking, right?
There was a story a little while back of like planes landing in a small airport, maybe in Victoria, somewhere in Australia at least, that was starting in like Las Vegas or something.
Right.
And I think some credible like actual newspapers were like, what is happening here? The small obscure airport, all these flights are starting at one place and, random locations in America and finishing here.
That doesn't sound right though.
Or are people being snuck in and, snuck into the country under COVID restrictions? And the theories were that it was, maybe film and TV people being snuck in to do film shoots and, what's happening here. And there was a few newspapers running it as this is actually happening. We can't find an explanation why. And then it got to the point, like people were ringing the airport and being like, what's this with these planes? And like, we don't know anything about it. It's like, that's exactly what you would say.
Mm.
And then someone started staking out the airport and then no planes were landing. And they worked out that it was the airport has the same code or a really similar code as one in America near Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And like there was just a typo somewhere. So all of these flights were being logged as landing here.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah. It was kind of like, I think I might have seen it on a Media Watch. And I'm like, that's what a bizarre story that we haven't heard about. And I feel like that's, yeah. Anyway, slide aside.
So yeah, that's the deep underground military bases. And that's been going around like the QAnon people. I guess there's not a lot of new QAnon news. So anything that you can sort of latch onto is going to be latched onto.
Mm.
The other explanation for why they had to set off an earthquake was because the people are uprising and they
oh my god,
they had to either they had to be sent a message or like don't go out and protest or we'll shake off some rubble around Betty's Burgers.
Yeah.
Or this is going to like wipe the protests off the news because they'll all be talking about the earthquake, which didn't happen because really all that happened is that the media was like, on top of all these gronks, now we've got to deal with a fucking earthquake.
It really just made what was happening more of a meme, right?
Yeah.
Like, everything's happening. Protests and earthquakes. It turns out the media can focus on two things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
we may have hit the limit, but they did manage to do it. So if that was Dan Andrews' plan, you fucked that one up. And I would suggest that if you are going to fuck up a plan as simple as that, you maybe don't have the capacity to cause earthquakes.
Mm. I did see something that said this guy was his name. He's on BitChute as Seymour Rocks, and he first thing he did, he found a news report with the wrong date. But he read it out, and I think he realized that, like how it was an index in the search engine or whatever happened just meant the date was wrong or the time was out by an hour. But he still seemed to think it was sus, even though he'd worked out why. But then he said, we haven't seen any damage other than one or two strategic locations.
Yeah.
And as we know, the only damage anyone has ever seen is Betty's Burgers and Concretes on Chapel Street in Windsor, which is, I don't know if you guys, I'm not fully across all the strategic locations.
Yeah.
But Betty's Burgers on Chapel Street, I don't think anything's being housed there.
Yeah, I don't know if it would be up there.
That footage, because that was the only thing that fell down, right?
I think pretty much. I saw, it seemed like there was very limited damage. I actually on the same day that this was happening, one of the main anti-lockdown people was having their bail adjustment hearing. Right. And so I was watching the live stream of that, and the judge was like asking all of the lawyers, have you had, are you guys all right? We've heard that people have been having trouble with their power going out and they're losing internet. And I was like, that sounds like the most bullshit excuse for not going to court. People say, oh no, our internet got knocked out by the earthquake. But then apparently it did happen a little bit. Some power was going out somewhere. So
that is a strategic.
Yeah.
Somewhat strategic. This fella also said that you'd expect to see aftershocks after this earthquake like this, which, you do. People said there'll be lots of aftershocks, and he said, but there haven't been any aftershocks. So
I think there was like 3 more that afternoon.
Yeah, there's been heaps of aftershocks. I don't know what is many. Like I felt 2 myself, and then there's been many, many more. So that was somehow, again, proof that it was all a setup.
Well, if you want even more proof that it was a setup, what time was the earthquake?
I don't know.
8 or something.
9:22 a.m.
Mm.
On September the 22nd. 9:22. If you do the date in a stupid way.
Yep.
September 22 was the equinox. In 200 years of colonization, there has never been an earthquake in Melbourne, Australia. Well, not true, but anyway. 9:22 or 9:11. There you go.
That's 2 9/11s. How are people equating that? What happened with 2 9/11s?
Well, it's not 9/11. 11 plus 11 is 22.
If you stylize your ones with like that downslope off the top of the bar and the line across the bottom, you could kind of make it look kind of like 2s.
Yeah.
So you could say it is 911, but they're stylized ones that just look like 2s.
When were the aftershocks, guys? They were only at 9:33.
Oh, okay. Well, that's.
There were also some at 9:47, which equals 9:11. How? Oh, 4 plus 7.
4 plus 7.
Okay.
Then more aftershocks at 9:54 or 9:09, which is, that's just 3:33s.
Yeah.
And then also, see, I don't know if they're saying there were actually aftershocks at these times, but then they also say 9:55, which is on the clock. The hands are pointing to 9 and 11.
Shit.
Jeez, they're just doing it so many different ways.
I didn't know that Mother Nature followed Illuminati coding. This wasn't natural. Oh, and also the first response to this is every news outlet has this happening at 9:15, not 9:22.
I like how they just invent the most ludicrous codes using multiple methods that mean things only to a very small amount of people, and then that's how we've got them there. They're using these codes that we've just entirely made up.
So, yeah, he's basing it on being at 9:22 based on he looked at his watch, but everyone else is like, it was at 9:15.
9:33 is pretty Masonic. Was that a?
Well, yeah, I don't know if there actually was an aftershock at 9:33. I think this is very much based on his own calculation.
What's the Linda Everingham stuff, Cam? Did you look at that?
Yeah, that was more QAnon stuff. And she, I feel like she must have. I think she was doing some earthquake gear somewhere, but it's not hugely in that article, so you can cut this.
Okay, I read through one of her things. LindaEveringham.com if people want to read along. But it's just crap. It's just absolute crap. It's just like she says that the local verbal reports was the noise was the main thing. We thought there'd been a collision on the main road nearby. And then someone says deep noise, said it was like a deep noise like a bomb.
Mm.
Yeah, because the freaking Earth's moving.
Yeah.
The Earth is massive. If that moves, it's going to make a bit of a noise.
I did notice she mentioned, and I think this will be key to our gradual understanding of what it means to be in the fifth dimension, is that Earth itself moved out of the third dimension last year, or maybe in like 2012. And now we've just got to catch up with the Earth.
Right.
So we're getting there. For people following along with us slowly understanding what it means to think fifth dimensionally, we're getting there. This is going to help us.
Okay.
But yeah, one of the sorry, go on.
No, you go.
one of the things I kept on seeing is like, how can there be an earthquake in Melbourne when we're on one big tectonic plate? It's like, because there's fault lines. They're like, there's no fault lines in Victoria. Well, there are. There's a major one. Where do you think mountains come from?
Yeah. It's not. We're just not on a smooth continent here. And also, if you look at the Pacific Rim, which is the most like earthquake prone part, like it runs right by Australia. Like it circles, the Pacific. New Zealand is just one giant fault line. Australia is very close to that. Like things are going to be moving all around that. Do you know who else felt it?
Who?
Our old mate PK.
Oh yes. What was PK's response? Can you tell us PK's earthquake story?
Well, I won't tell you because he's already been told off by someone on his channel for rambling about it. So he started telling a story about how he dozed off in his chair.
Yeah, can you summarize it perhaps rather than giving us the blow by blow?
So PK started dozing off in his chair, got a little bit of a fright by the earthquake. Oh, what's going on? Oh, hey, what is this? This story took about 4 minutes, so he was certainly rambling because PK is just getting like older and dotterier by the day. And then so someone in his chat says, "Can you stop rambling? No one cares about your chair." And he whatever like stream things he does, he can highlight messages from the chat. So he just highlighted that, and then just like, "Hey, would you fuck off?" And he just loses it at this person. He's like, "I don't care if you're a patron or what. No, you're banned." And that takes him another 2 minutes. But he leaves the comment up of like, just this person's like, "Stop rambling, you idiot," like whatever. And that's up there for a while. And then he just goes into protest stuff, which we'll talk about on the news show. But he didn't seem to think it was anything fake. I think PK respects the power of the earth.
Yeah. Also, if you're watching a PK live stream, you need to come to terms with your own shit and stop putting it onto PK. Like, this is what he does.
Yep. He is not a succinct or pithy man.
No. And
he has long videos.
You should be across this by this point if you're watching it live.
Yep. To be honest, that's all I've got on this. PK was the last thing for me because all of it was just the same QAnon tunnels gear. That's just, get some new gear,
Also, I kept on seeing stuff about people being like, look, we know that they can make an earthquake happen, and then they'd talk about lasers or whatever. But it's like, we do know they can make earthquakes happen. That's like how many earthquakes caused by fracking?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
But
yeah, there's a man-made problem with earthquakes.
They seem to take that thing where it's like, okay, it's an established fact that a man-made earthquake is possible, and then they would just conflate it with lasers.
Yeah.
I mean, because it makes it seem a little bit more high-tech as well. I mean, I don't really know how fracking works, but I don't they just drill into the earth and then pump things into the gas faults?
Yeah, they pump like liquid into it, and then it just shakes everything up.
Yeah, right. So that's not as exciting or sexy as
chucking a laser down there.
Lasers from Jeff Bezos's satellites.
Yeah, get a Jeff Bezos laser into you. Don't.
No. Well, folks.
Unless you get a good deal on Amazon Prime.
And if you are getting a good deal on Amazon Prime, make sure you use your Prime Twitch, your Twitch Prime thing to subscribe to Salty.
Yeah, do it. Free Twitch subscription. That's all we got time for.
Hang on. What do you mean free? Isn't Twitch free anyway?
Yeah, but you can subscribe to Twitch.
Oh, so if I subscribe to you, you get a little bit of money.
Yeah, I get a little bit of money. You get like some exclusive emotes and stuff you can use. And if you have an Amazon Prime membership, because Amazon owns Twitch, you get a free gaming subscription.
And you can find all of that at twitch.tv/thesalt.
That's right.
All right.
And at Saltmarsh, Twitter and Instagram for the rest of my stuff.
Yeah. So, getting a little ahead of ourselves.
And where can they find us, guys?
We're at HAARP on Twitter. You can find us on Patreon. Thank you to Tammy, our $33 sponsor.
Thank you.
Robbo, where can they find you?
At isleofatime, isleofatime.com.
Salty, you've already had your one.
I've had my plug. That's fine.
Yeah. Yep. And you can find me at Sextonheimer on Twitter. Gather Around Me is my other podcast, and also check out my radio show on 3CR. Yeah, Nah Passaran, which you can also find at all the podcast places.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Don't worry about a thing, except if all our world leaders are alien reptilians. I said don't worry about a thing, except maybe the fluoride in our water supply contains mind-altering drugs. Don't worry about a thing, except whether or not Port Arthur was a false flag operation in which to disarm Australia. I said don't worry about a thing. Except you can definitely hear John Lennon say I buried Paul at the end of Strawberry Fields Forever. Ooh, don't worry about a thing. Except not only did Bush do 9/11, but he also keeps the plane down in Area 51, which, let's not forget where all of the aliens are. Don't worry about a thing. Except Donald Trump is clearly a woman, and you're just blind if you can't see that. Why don't you open your eyes?